Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and today I'm going to review the Blu Ray release of At Eternity's Gate. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos daily. You can also find me over Twitter and Instagram at Movie Guy 365. Willem Dafoe, At Eternity's Gate. The telling of the final days of Vincent van Gogh in the late 1800s. Now, this is a blind buy purchase, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie. If you're more interested in what I thought about the Blu-ray, I'll go ahead and leave that in the description. You can jump ahead for that. So, what are my initial thoughts? Well, I've always had kind of a ancillary relationship as far as Vincent van Gogh goes. My mother used to be a huge fan. I had several reproductions of his artwork. Was always interested in the man that painted them, and he's a very famous artist. Several of his pieces go for millions and millions of dollars. So I've always kind of been curious about the guy, and he kind of, based off the paintings, he actually kind of looked like my dad a little bit, but that's another thing. Anyway, the film itself, I'm a huge fan of Willem Dafoe. I think after watching it, he's definitely deserving of this. It's a movie that is kind of it's unique in its storytelling. I feel like the things with like the camera angles, it's mostly told from the perspective of Vincent van Gogh, who suffered from what many psychiatrists and such have deemed like a version of bipolar disorder. So imagine going along for a 2-hour movie that, you're kind of in that perspective a lot of the time. You get a lot of his inner thoughts and, the workings, and it's reflected in the camera work. It's a little jarring at first. In fact, the opening scene kind of just sets you up for that. It's just like, okay, this is what we're going to get. So that being said, there's a lot of shaky cam and that kind of thing. Overall, it tells that story in that way, of the people that he meets in the south part of France, in his final days. And just like how, when they're talking to him and that kind of thing, you get it from his perspective. Even if you're, there's even a few shots where you're seeing it through his eyes, like literal point of view. They're not too often in there, but they are sprinkled throughout the movie. And it does a good job communicating what his mindset was like in those final days. So overall, I felt that while the film did work on certain levels, I think there was 2 points that I felt were borderline irresponsible of the filmmaker. Now look, I understand, and I can even go back to my review of Bohemian Rhapsody. When you're talking about a famous person, a true person, there's going to have to be some artistic license in how they are portrayed. And while sometimes it comes across as, just, benign, there's just little changes here and there just for, appealing to a wider audience, I don't feel this movie was ever intended for that kind of thing. So I feel that the responsibility is a little more there, that they should be just, try to keep things true. And this is not something, this is a film about a man that's lived over 100 years ago, so I'm not really going to get into the whole spoiler thing. So, the guy lived and died, Well, there's 2 pieces of information that were presented into the movie that I felt were, as I said, irresponsible. And one is about a supposed journal or a sketchbook that was discovered about 2 to 3 years ago that I feel that was being taken, it was given a lot of prominent screen time. Now, if you don't know the story, apparently recently a note or sketchbook was discovered that were supposedly sketches done by Vincent van Gogh while he stayed there. And the way the film portrays it it's like kind of ignoring that the general consensus by the Van Gogh Museum pretty much ruled it a fake, a hoax. But I don't like the way the film portrays it as, yes, this happened, this was a thing. And they do it, look, if they did it in kind of a passing way, I could understand, but they spend a good deal of time on it. And I feel it kind of ruins a little bit of the integrity of the movie. Now, the second part that I kind of had an issue with was the manner of his death. It's been widely accepted that the man killed himself. He shot himself in the chest. but it took about 30 days for him to die because of infection and that kind of thing. He didn't immediately die of the gunshot wound. But they portray it as more of like a accidental murder kind of thing. Supposedly 2 kids were playing around or trying to, you know, ruffle him up or something, and they shot him. Of course, Van Gogh himself never mentioned this kind of thing, but to present it eagerly as fact, I feel was not a wise move in this case. You know, I can understand if like incontrovertible evidence, you know, appeared and the man, you know, definitely was murdered. I understand that, but the way it was presented here is almost fact. You know, it felt a little bit insulting. You know, from what I know of the man, you know, this isn't widely accepted by the art community or by Van Gogh estate itself. So just kind of a little bit like off-putting when you watch the movie that these 2 things are presented in the way they were. That being said, did I like the movie? I thought it was a fair film. It's a little hard to follow. You know, it's not totally like, you know, like, oh, it's come from a normal narrative. There's definitely a lot of lulls of silence. There's a lull. Pretty much you get most of the perspective from Van Gogh himself. And as I said, it's kind of disjointed how it's told. I did enjoy the performances. I thought Oscar Isaac was brilliant in this as well. He's such a great actor. It was welcoming to see him in the film. Mads Mikkelsen has a brief part, but you know, you gotta love the guy. He knows his stuff, and it's almost a way of, but the way they present a lot of these outside characters are just, you know, in a passing way. They're not given a lot of depth. But once again, that could be attributed to the fact that Van Gogh himself, you're getting it mostly from his point of view. So overall, it was an okay experience, except for my major 2 nitpicks. I give this one a 6 out of 10. It was good. Willem Dafoe is excellent in it. All right, so now let's talk about the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is presented. It's beautiful, nice 1080p encode. There's a lot of playing with the color palette. The color yellow was very prominent, which was apparently Van Gogh's color of choice, you know, when it comes to like the fields of wheat and sunrise, sunset. So I understand why there's a lot of hindrance on or reliance on yellow. But I feel it's a very nice looking picture. There, as I mentioned, there is a little bit of shaky cam, which can be a little disjointing, but I don't feel it takes away from the overall like lushness of the image itself. Audio-wise, we're given a DTS 5.1. It's nothing spectacular. It's moderately immersive. A lot of the film takes place in nature, so you get a lot of those little, you know, chirps and nature background noises. It sounded good. It's not something I would say you have to have your surround sound system on. I don't think you'd really miss it if you didn't. But it's overall, it's a fairly decent track. As I said, it's not reference material by any way or shape, but it's a good enough thing. But if you're gonna watch it on TV, you're not losing much. So overall, you know, At Eternity's Gate is an okay film. Tad irresponsible in some places. I know artistic license does kind of take precedent, but I feel like it could have been done a little bit more justice. I could have even forgiven a few of those faults if they were handled maybe in a little more subtle way. You know, maybe a little ambiguity would have been better. So yeah, please leave in the comments below if you've had a chance to check out At Eternity's Gate. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos daily. And as always, this is Movie Guy with 365. I will see you at the movies.